Okay, good evening. We have a jam-packed agenda tonight, and we actually have a special guest star, but I'm going to keep you in suspense to find out who that is. People who are here in person kind of know, but they promise not to say anything. So those of you in Zoom land, you'll find out when the presenter kind of comes in. Want to welcome everybody. We had some great rain. I know by my house, I had over 2 inches, so very, very happy about that. And hopefully everybody else had a good soaking, but not too much of a soaking to cause flooding and damage. Tonight, we have a very special speaker, Randy Pensabene. She is the past president of the Williamson Chapter NIPSOT. She is also faculty for our Native Landscape Certification Program. She is an expert in native plants. She was integral in developing the plant signs that we use for giveaways, plant sales, et cetera, and maintaining that and updating that. And has worked tirelessly to promote native plants and really facilitate all the work that we do here. So it's the other thing, just to kind of give her another plug, she actually speaks to sold out audiences. So her last speech, actually, I think they had to call the fire marshal almost to like prevent people from coming in. So she's going to have to do it again. So we're very happy to have her here. And for those of you who are sitting in your living room at home, you don't have to worry about the fire marshal coming in to see you. And, you can enjoy her presentation. Okay, upcoming programs. We have some great programs that are coming up. As you see, we have Susan Reynolds, archaeology and ethnobotany. Beth Irwin will be here to talk about all about seeds. This is actually a follow-up to one of the presentations that we had earlier in the fall. This is going to be hands-on. It will not be Zoom because it's very hard to do what she's doing. So if you really want to know about propagation and collection of seeds and the hands-on piece of this, I suggest that you show up at the Round Rock Public Library. It's kind of like the Ritz-Carlton of all the libraries around here. So it's a really nice place. They have a full parking lot, so you don't have to worry about parking as well. So it's pretty easy. It's right off of I-35. July 11th is more of a business meeting. We won't have a presentation. And then in August, we have Casey Williams with native aquatic plants. I always like to give a kudos out to Susie Hickman, who sets up our programming. If anybody has heard someone, has an idea, feel free to contact us through our website, and we can forward that to Susie, and she can follow up. Field trips. Field trip committee has been busy at work. As you see here, we have a whole lineup of really interesting field trips. We're continuing our Hidden Springs Plant Survey. This is number 10. We have an interesting April 27th, Museo Benny and in Marble Falls. And then Cindy Chrysler, one of our members, has graciously allowed us to kind of tour her family property. So that should be very interesting. We have a Russell Park, a Crisfield Conservation Preserve, and we have another tree walk at Old Settlers Park. And then on July 20th, this is limited to 20 participants. And again, this will be posted on our website and through our blog. So if you haven't registered for our blog and you want to do this, my suggestion is go to the website and just register there. And then you'll get more of the notices rather than having to continuously check our website. So that is going to be a very interesting program. We did have a spring tree walk. It was on St. Patrick's Day. That's why the trees are all green, because they had to bloom and leaf out by St. Patrick's Day. Gary Bowers was our leader for our tree walk, and these are some of the highlights that they spotted while they were there. So there's another one coming up. Very informative. Each season has a different look and a different way that you can learn about the trees that are in our area. I want to put out a plug for our native plant rescues. as well as monarch way stations. So, you know, some people wonder, okay, you know, we do these rescues and like, where do the plants go? So basically, one of the channels for the plants that are rescued is a monarch way station in our chapter, and this shows it's a conservation of both botany as well as providing pollinators a place to come. The plants that are here are all plants that have been rescued and now are residing at the Round Rock High School Monarch Way Station. So this, again, if you're out and on Zoom or in here and you're thinking about it, you know, the grants for the Monarch Way Stations are really, really good ways for you to start and get some funding to do this, as well as expertise and et cetera. And it's a good way to start the next generation learning about native plants and getting excited about it and maintaining it. So this is just one of the uses of the rescues. A big thing that happened last weekend, I think everybody's still recovering from that. It was our spring plant sale, and it was amazing. The picture here shows the lineup before the plant sale opened. So, and this is just part of the line. It kept going. Even the panoramic view didn't capture everyone. We had over 40 volunteers that basically started, you know, months before, from procurement to actually the logistics at the end of the event. I want to also, you know, put a special thank you to the Round Rock High School Plant Club, who really were the might and enthusiasm, and they helped in all aspects. And we've been working now with Round Rock High School Plant Club for about 3 years, and it's so interesting to see as the kids move up how much they learn about native plants, and they're, you know, just walking in the lawn. Oh, look, you know, look at this and look at that, and they're identifying by botanical names. So it's quite refreshing and rewarding to see that they're really interested. And that's the next generation. We have to get kids involved when they're young, and then they go off to college and they can start a Monarch Way Station where they go to school, and then they can, you know, see what they had when they were in high school and carry it forward. Upcoming project. Oh, just to go back 1 second, I don't know if you noticed, but we basically had 100 species of plants, shrubs, and trees, and we had 2,800 items that were sold, and we basically sold out in a couple of hours. So it was amazing to see how fast it went. And we do an online for the larger items, and then we had in person, which were more of the, you know, gallon or 4-inch. So it was, you know, quite satisfying that we got all these plants out into the community. Upcoming projects, we still have more things on, you know, coming down the pike. These are 3 of the projects that will need volunteers. They're a fun day. Come out, you know, and help. You'll see again on our blog, we put out when we need volunteers and how you sign up for these particular events. We also have local community events. This is the time for Earth Day and Nature Fest and things of that nature. You know, we have all the equipment. We know how to do this really well, but we always could use extra people out there to, you know, answer questions. It doesn't matter what your knowledge is of native plants. You know, there's always someone there who is an expert with it and can help and do that. So these are just some of the opportunities. If you're interested, go to the website. You'll see the contact form and just say, hey, I'd like to volunteer, and we'll hook you up and tell you kind of, you know, where to go and what to do. So for those of you who came tonight, these are the free plants that were given away. We thought we would have some plants left over from the plant sale. We didn't, so we actually had to take a visit to our grower barber to the Wright's nursery and pick up some more. So that was a good thing that we ran out of plants. an in-person attendee tonight at tonight's meeting. Another reason why you guys, in Zoom can be in your pajamas, but if you're in your pajamas, you don't get a free plant and you don't get the book, okay? So the people who came here and are actually dressed, not in their pajamas, they get a chance to win. So this is the presenter's recommendation for the book. These are our different areas if you're interested in following us or getting information on that. We do live, we do Zoom. Because we kind of bounce around a bit due to availability of rooms, we always ask, please check the website and know where you're going. Because if you show up at a place that we're not, then you got to like get on Zoom. And that's not, kind of puts a downer on coming to a meeting. So just please check. Okay, so I said that we had a special guest tonight. So I would like to introduce Meg English, if you'd like to come up. And she's going to kind of give us an update of what's happening on a state level. So Meg is the executive director of the Native Plant Society of Texas, and she's making her chapter rounds. So she's here with us tonight. We're very excited about that. And she's going to kind of tell us what's going on the state.
Good evening. My name is Meg English. I'm the executive director of the Native Plant Society of Texas. I've been in this position for 2 years. This is the first ED position that we've had. And before I became the executive director, I was the NLCP coordinator, the Native Landscape Certification Program coordinator. And I did that for about 8 years. And that's where I met Randy and all the other people that were involved in the development of the program and putting it on. In fact, I think this might have been the same room where you were putting classes on.
That's how you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm a member of the Austin chapter, past president, past vice president, worked plant sales. I have 2 acres in Dripping Springs. We're sole source rainwater and been restoring that property for 24 years now. So this is just something I love doing and I'm very passionate about. And thank you for letting me crash your meeting and really appreciate being here. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what's happening with the society as a whole. Our goal, the 2020, our last strategic plan goal, which ended December 23rd, 2023, our goal is to have 5,000 members, and we are at 4,800 right now. So we've almost made that goal. I've personally seen a lot of change in the society over the years. So meeting that 5,000 mark is pretty incredible. One of the things that we did that's new this year is we wrote an annual report. Hopefully you got to see that. We sent it out to all the members. It's a first time we've ever had one. And I think that's a new thing that comes with having a greater responsibility, being a larger organization. And then the other thing is we're working on a new strategic plan. So if you're interested in volunteering, then if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. We have 3 new chapters that have just started up. Tyler was went on hiatus for a while, but it has been revitalized by some really enthusiastic people. Lakes and Pines is up there in the northeast area. And Rio Grande Valley is we now have that chapter open as well. There are a bunch of really enthusiastic people down there. Well, I have to say that the first project that I want to highlight is your very own project here in Wilco, the plant rescue project that Ashley Landry works on. She's done a fantastic job, and I just want to say that the guidelines that she wrote, I had the pleasure of reviewing and giving feedback on, are top-notch, and I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing with the plant rescue project. You've taken it from kind of let's go out and get some plants and take them home and put them in the yard to something where we are conserving plants. And that's critical, plants and seeds. And so I love it that Ashley's working with these organizations and bringing us to another level on plant rescues. Thank you, Ashley. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Another thing we've been doing that you may not have heard about is Laura Leggett, our president-elect, has taken us over to the dark side. No, I'm just kidding. We're working with the Texas Nursery and Landscape Association, the TNLA, which is the conventional organization of conventional plant nurseries and people who work in the landscaping field, and we are bringing native plants to them. When we first started in LCP, Randy remembers this, we got NLCP credit, TNLA to give credits for NLCP classes, which I thought was a good thing for us to do. And but we were always seen as a niche. And I think growing in size has made it so that they see us in different eyes. And last year in August, we went to the expo and did some outreach to stakeholders, had an educational booth, talked to people. Here you'll see a picture of Bill Neiman talking with our the HEB people that we've been working with on that project. So we're trying to bring folks together to work together on getting more plants, native plants into the field so that we can expand, just preach the word here. HEB is another initiative that we've been doing. It's basically what we're hoping to do is to bring native plants to new consumers, and that way we can feed those new consumers into nurseries that are already growing native plants. We think it's a very positive thing. We were very excited when we talked to corporate and they said, yeah, we've wanted, the guy that we talked to was the the director, I guess, of the Texas Backyards program at or division at HEB. And he said to us as we walked out of our first meeting with him, I said, this is really great. I hope we can continue on with this relationship and do some really positive things. And he said, we've been looking for the right partner for about 10 years now, and we found them. So I think that speaks well for our organization. We're teaching them about native plants. We're teaching them about the fact that they are regional and they can't just you can't just take a plant from West Texas and put it in East Texas. It's going to take time. You have to be patient, but I think it's going to happen. We're going to educate their employees, and I think it's a very positive program. NICE, the Native Plant Partners, Natives Improve and Conserve Environments. The Native Plant Partners program is growing under Claire Sorensen's leadership. She's got 14 chapters participating in this and 35 nurseries, and they work on having a plant of the month. I think I just messed up did I mess up my microphone? Yeah. Okay. And so she's really organizing this. I don't know, do you guys have a NICE program at all, or? No, we don't. Okay. Might consider it's a good time. We've got a real go-getter leader. Of course, all the chapters do wonderful demonstration gardens, and they're leading by examples in their communities. And I'm sure we have more than 14 chapters participating. By the way, this information, a lot of it's coming from your chapter activity reports. That's what we do with these reports, is we gather it, we collate it, and we talk about it to everybody. The I-35 Monarch waste stations, we've got Hill County and Bell County Monarch waste stations that are in place, and a couple of really good groups of people working on maintaining those. We have a new state chair, Tom Olson. I think he's going to do good things. Of course, I'm sure you're familiar with BBMT, Bring Back the Monarchs to Texas. We've had for many years. And Carol Clark has been awesome. In 2023, she and her team, because she has a team that works on this, they gave out 46 grants for over $26,000. And we upped the level of the grant from $400 to $600 that year. So we're just given, I think the program is very successful. And of course, Carol's given presentations all the time. In LCP, we had 11 host chapters last year, 31 classes, 1,165 students. But if you look at the statistics below, from when it began in 2009 to last August, we've trained 4,325 people at the level 1 basis at the level 1 class, and you can see all the other the statistics on the other levels as well. We've made a huge impact. We have our new NLCP coordinator is Linda Foss, so you'd contacted her. I would love to see NLCP start back up again here, but I know that there's some work to be done, and I would encourage you to do it, because we do need more classes in the this area. Austin's we're not doing a class in the spring, so we've lost our NLCP coordinator. So essentially in the Austin Williamson County area, we don't have any NLCP classes right now. Scholarships and grants, Dr. Alfred Richardson NIPSOT Scholarship Fund got an endowment, and we fund up to 2 students for 4 semesters. And that's a lot of money to be given out. And I would love it if you would recommend a college to us or a program to us. We could add it to our list, because we're always looking for people to take scholarships, believe it or not. And we have the Kate Hillhouse Scholarship that's been around for years and years and years, $2,500 awarded to someone. And our graduate research grants will be coming up in the fall. Our VP of Education, Amy Birdwell's done a great job, but she's leaving that position. So if you know anybody that wants to coordinate the scholarships and grants, the position will be open in August. And we have to mention the spring and fall annual symposia that take place. The upcoming one is going to be, the fall symposium is going to be in New Braunfels, October 10th through 12th. So it's just down the road from you guys. Hopefully you'll be able to make it. We want to have at least 400 people come to that symposium. And we've got a team working on it and doing a great job pulling everything together. And I brought some quarterly news magazines with me from the winter and the fall. So if you want a magazine, an actual physical magazine, just holler at me. I think they're in the box with the bags, so we'll be happy to pass those out. And finally, we have a new state website run by a bunch of really enthusiastic people, and they've done a great job. And I just talked to Craig Dalton, who's our webmaster, the other night, and I said, "What should I tell Wilco? I know they're not doing they're doing their own thing with their website." And he said, "You just tell them they're doing a beautiful job, and they are more than welcome to join us whenever they want. But they've got a great website, and we're really proud of them." And I said, "Okay." And we also have a new plant database, native plant database that Claire Sorensen has put together, and I think it's a huge driver of people coming to our website. It's primarily where people go when they come to the state website. So thank you for letting me take up a little bit of your time. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments that you want to make after the meeting, I will be here. Yes.
We have one question from Sue before you, Meg. What's the status of level 5 NLCP class?
Oh, a level 5 class. Well, it's traditionally NLCP has been levels 1 through level 4. So we now have all 4 levels, and you can become certified with the program by taking those 4 levels. We have the birds class, and we have and we're working on an advocacy class. So maybe that's what they're thinking about. We would welcome people who might want to work on that particular class. Advocacy is one of those things where you say, take the advocacy class, and everybody looks at you like you're crazy because it sounds really boring. But we're making it exciting, I promise, and it's going to be a great class. So I have no status on that at this point. We're just still kind of working on it. Thank you so much for letting me come.
Tonight we're going to talk about drought-tolerant landscaping. I really appreciate being here, and nothing works like natives. It's for so many reasons. And we just heard about the Native Plant Society of Texas and a whole bunch about their mission. So, you know, talking about drought-tolerant plants, we should lead off with landscaping in residential areas here. It's estimated 50 to 75% of the landscaping of water is used for landscaping and not just used in your house. And the main problem with that is that it goes to turf, which is a monoculture, and it has no real wildlife value at all. So turf grass needs like 60 inches a year. Even if you get way over here in Beaumont, you don't get 60 inches a year in Texas. Georgetown itself averages approximately 30 inches a year. So just to have a flat green space, you're utilizing a lot of resources there without enhancing your economy there. Anyway, so a lot of people think I'll just install some artificial turf. And I'm gonna use the clicker. That's better. So here's xeriscaping, which is what everyone calls xeriscaping. They sound a lot alike, but there really is such a thing as xeriscaping. And it's 0 plants, all concrete, these blocks and artificial turf. Well, if you look into artificial turf, it has 0 value to local pollinators, birds, other wildlife, of course, because it's nothing alive there. The first thing they do is remove your topsoil, first 3 inches. Then they add back some soil, rock, or sand for a base, and they compact that down with a big stamper, heavy stamper, so that now you've got compacted soil, what's little is left. And then they install a plastic artificial turf. Not my idea of a good time. So anyway, it gets very hot. It absorbs the sun and it heats up to the point where your pets can't walk on it. And you have to use water to cool it down. So it's not water free. And in fact, you get to vacuum the leaves off of it because you can't blow it. And they don't decompose because there's nowhere for it to go. It's sitting on top of plastic. And then you get to hose off, what little bit of animal waste lands there, which is either from your pets or from the birds or the raccoons or whatever else, because it doesn't absorb into the ground. And then you get to brush it with a brush so that the plastic fibers will stand up properly. So people are thinking this is no maintenance, right? Not true. And then in 10 years, bonus, you get to throw it all in the landfill and buy some more. So, there's a lot of issues with it. It is not the answer to xeriscaping. And, I had a lady the other day that said, well, I'm just going to pull all my grass out and put rocks in. Well, okay. I said, are you sure you want to do that? I said, you get to, again, 0 value, and that it becomes a heat island. The city of Georgetown is worried about that. Everyone putting rocks in their front yard, because that's going to absorb the heat all day and then it re-emits it at night. You get to weed it by hand, which is what I do for the rock areas I do have. It does have its use for erosion and such. Or you get to use weed killer. And if you have a landscape company or, somebody that doesn't care in your household, you might use Roundup. That's the go-to for weeds is Roundup. So if you're not interested in that, you really don't want rocks. It's very difficult to plant in. You got to move all the rocks out of the way. And if you don't have landscape barrier down, they sink into the mud. It's difficult to remove the rock if you ever decide to change it back. And then it doesn't improve the soil like organic mulches. And it's also difficult to walk on if you get any size of rock. So when you get the larger sizes, so it gets more difficult. So I'm not sure that's the answer either. So everyone says, well, I'll just xeriscape. And what they think it is that it's all rocks and cactus, because that's what the landscapers do. That's what's easy. That's what they can charge you the most for. And they come in and they just throw in a bunch of cactus, which many of them are from Mexico, and they die and are freezes. But there are 7 principles to xeriscaping, and this term never really caught on. So I kind of hate to use it, but it's kind of a good talking point here. First of all, planning and design. So you plan out your turf areas. What areas do you need to keep? What areas do you want to convert to native plants? See, I got a plug in there. Soil amendments. We don't really advocate too much soil amendment, but sometimes you need a little drainage, or I put a little compost on it. But this was their principles. But the key principles to me are limit your lawn and use appropriate plant selection. So the way and then mulch, of course, to keep the soil cool and keep the water in. Efficient irrigation, drip irrigation is very good. Where you have beds, it's not really that effective on lawns, or I don't really know how they use it on lawns. But, and then just overall appropriate maintenance. So that's the principles of xeriscaping. Nowhere in that list does it say rocks and cactus. So the definition I like to use is landscaping designed specifically for areas susceptible to drought and for water conservation. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to conserve water, and we have the recurring droughts. So this is nature's xeriscape. And these are Texas native plants. This is out in the Sun City area, in a construction area where they just scraped and piled everything over on the side, and everything came back. Beautiful thistles, we got prairie verbena, we got green thread, we got all kinds of native plants that just came up on their own without being cultivated, without anyone throwing seed out. That was nature's seed that was already there in the dirt. So we've been through the key benefits of Texas native plants, but we get a lot of new people tuning in to our talks. So I'd like to just run through those. I'm preaching to the room here, but hopefully you people will listen up, because it's native plants. This is where they grew up. This is where they learned to, they've adapted over millions of years. Let's see one that was sideways. So you've got your prairie verbena. This is again out in a construction area. Four-nerve daisy, just growing in pure rock. That's what they like. We don't need a lot of water. It's a foundation of a healthy functioning system. We've got bees here on the esperanzas, the bumblebees. We've got, it provides food and habitat for our native wildlife. The plants are the foundation of a functioning ecosystem. So we've got the milkweeds. Those are necessary for the monarch butterfly caterpillars. And then we also have fun watching the hummingbirds. I have more fun in my yard watching the hummingbirds and the crawly things and the insects and the bees and the butterflies jumping around and just gathering their nectar and their seeds. So it's really interesting. Also have wildlife cameras out there, so I get to see everything that's going on. So the native plants that evolved here do really well in our poor soils. That's what they like. So many times I've had people come and say, well, I put it in pure potting soil and it didn't do very well. It's like, well, I can tell you why. But, the heats, the freezes, the heat, yes, they have mechanisms to survive that. The freezes, they also survive those, or they wouldn't be around. Recurring droughts, they understand those. They have ways to protect themselves, to shut down and wait until it rains again. And then the droughts are often followed by flooding rains. So it also can take a lot of water. Oh, wrong button. So what does drought tolerant mean? Once it's established, now it has to be established. Any new plant has to be watered. So we want you to do that first and get it good and established, and protect it from the deer if you have deer. And then it may not look its best. It may need a little supplemental water occasionally, but it doesn't need water every week. It doesn't need the 1 inch of water every single week that grass does. And sometimes people water it twice a week, which drives me crazy. But anyway, and then another part is their survival mode. It may droop its leaves. It may not need watering. It just shuts them down because that reduces the surface area, and it lessens the transpiration through the leaves. So it's shutting down its water loss. It may go totally dormant down to the root, where it doesn't always do that, but it will try to survive, and it'll pull all its energy into its core. So we want you to think about that when you're out there and checking plants. After it rains, it's going to come back, but you need to give it some time. As soon as it warms up for like 3 days, people are like, oh, my plants died. And it's like, not necessarily so. Give it a couple of weeks and you'd be surprised what comes back. And even your plants that don't normally die to the ground may have, but the roots may still be alive. So give it a little time. The native plants know how to do this, and there's stages they go through to shut down further and further to make it through this crazy weather we have. So at this point, we thought it'd be fun to have a little short survey and ask some questions for the audience and the group. If you can take your phone out, and we're going to give you a QR code to scan, and I have 5 very short questions, very easy answers, and just kind of get a sense of who's in the audience. There we go. So scan that QR code and go to the questions. And the first one is, do you live in Williamson County? We're going to see how this works out, and bear with us, we're learning. So we got 10 yeses and 2 nos. And I don't know that if Gary can give me the data later about who was online and who was in the room here, I don't know.
Oh, no.
But
no,
we can't get that. We can't get that.
We should have asked that question first.
Yeah.
Are you in the room or?
Well, we know how many's in the room, but not everyone's going to answer, I'm sure. But it looks like most of us are, but a good percentage is not in Williamson County. So that's interesting to know. Oh, and we thank you for that. You want to go to the next one?
Okay.
I think we're going to try and move through these. And are you a NIPSOP member? We just want to know. We're not going to call you or track you down. We're just curious. We welcome people that are not members. And we think once you get it and you enjoy, coming to these meetings, that hopefully you'll join and get more involved. So.
Okay.
All right. So what type of home? Are you apartment, condo, single family, or do you have acreage? And okay. Yeah, quite a few with acreage. Excellent. All right, this may sway some of our future presenters as we go forward to kind of know what our audience is. And so how much of your yard, if you have a yard, is turf grass?
No
Yeah,
artificial.
the real thing. If you're artificial turf, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I insulted you. Not really. You have 0?
Oh,
Oh, up to 25%.
okay.
Change it on the fly. Up to 25%. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just a guesstimate, so just an idea. All right. Very good. And what percentage of plants are native?
Same.
Hey, all
Up to
right.
25%.
That's excellent, excellent. That's great. Oh, she lost the barcode.
I'd have to jump all the way back to the beginning.
Okay, we'll keep the barcode on it next time, just in case, because it's bound to happen. All right, excellent. Well, I hope we all had fun.
Right. And then you were here.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. All right. Thank you, Gary, for your assistance. All right, so what can you do instead of grass? There's a couple things you can do instead of your non-native high maintenance water gulping turf grass. That could be a country song. All right. Texas native landscapes, beautiful and beneficial. This is, of course, my preference. And there was a study done by Dr. Doug Tallamy. Many of us are familiar with it, but some aren't. And you require like over 70% Texas native plants in your yard to maintain like a bird population. And so you want really more than that to help enhance bird population. And you want to keep your functional grass areas. Most of us have some grass. I have some grass, but every time I do something out there, I say, how much grass can I take out? So I did it in stages over many, many years. So don't be overwhelmed and think you have to hire contractors and bulldozers. Just take a spot, take it out, work with it, enjoy it, learn something. So, and then limit your use to pesticides and fertilizers, because these are the insects that the birds need to survive. These are the plants have evolved with these insects. They're meant to be eaten a little bit and they come back. It doesn't devastate them. There's very few, 95% of insects are beneficial. So don't use your pesticides when that little green anole that you think is so cute running around on your plant eats the pesticide. It doesn't do them any good. So, and then efficient use of water, just keep the like plants together. It helps with the watering that you need to do. And then modify your irrigation. I have drip all around in the beds around my house. The grass is still spray. But if you have irrigation, a lot of people don't. I keep mine off all the year and only irrigate when I want to, which is a few times when it gets into August. And mine are all native plants. I'm 100% native plants because I was told I couldn't do that. First of all, I live in an HOA, so they said, no, the HOA won't let you have all native plants. And it's like, well, I read the rules. It didn't say that. And that's the first mistake people don't do. You know, they don't read the rules. So, and then they said, well, you can't have it looking good with all native plants. And I said, well, I'm not sure about that either. So anyway, I have all native plants and it's wonderful. Here's something you can do instead of turf grass. If you still want that kind of green look, you can use woolly stomodia. It's a very nice plant. It does have benefits for small pollinators, and especially bees like the little tiny flowers on it. It keeps the little tiny purple flowers on it, and it's got beautiful gray leaves. And it really does cover a nice space in your garden bed, and it saves you from having to mulch and having to weed as much. Gets a few weeds, but most of it's shaded out. Horse herb. My backyard is real shady, and this is a horse herb that I grow in the backyard. And we do mow it occasionally for the weeds. It's also got weeds, but I challenge you to go look at your neighbor's yard real close, like you're looking at your grass. Theirs is full of weeds as well. And I did that. I went around our little cul-de-sac and looked in all the yards, and then I looked at the common areas out in our community. Weeds everywhere. It's a grass thing, grass and weeds. As long as you mow it, you're fine. But the horse herb is great because it does make a nice coverage. It's native to this area, and this all came in naturally in the backyard. And I let it grow in my flower beds as well as in the yard. And my husband actually mows it. Very seldom does he have to mow it though, but that's only just to kind of knock the weeds down. The deer come in and eat it, and they eat my horse herb, which is great because they don't eat it down to the ground. They leave a couple of inches high, which is the same as mowing. And you know, it's just wonderful because they go over and they sniff a plant, and then they go back to the horse herb because they prefer the forb. It's much preferred over the plants I have in my yard. So I'm able to have more and different native plants. Frog fruit is a nice ground cover. I really like it, mainly because I like frogs too. But it's really got the cutest little verbena flowers on it, and it's very green, and it tolerates poor drainage. It's a great ground cover, and it's mostly green, but it does go dormant some in the winter, and it's beneficial for your caterpillars and your butterflies. So it's a larval host for at least 3 different butterflies. So here's some more great options if you don't really just need a wide expanse of something. Number 1 tree is the oak tree. Everybody should have an oak tree somewhere. It's got many, many benefits, and it supports birds, squirrels, butterflies, caterpillars. It's like the number 1 wildlife tree. It's a keystone plant, and they're very important to have around. The acorns feed many, many of your small mammals as well. Mexican plum, I absolutely love this tree. Now, this also is a keystone plant, and that's something I'm just starting to really dig into and learn about more. But Talamy again, Dr. Doug Talamy has been working in the field with these keystone plants. And all right, I'm watching the time. Showy fragrant blooms, and you get this nice fruit, which the mammals, small mammals, will eat for you and clean up your yard for you. So that's great. And it's a great replacement for the invasive Bradford pear. And they bloom about the same time. It has the same stunning blooms. The Mexican plum smells sweet and fragrant. The Bradford pear smells like cat piss. Excuse my language, but it does. And it's also, the Bradford pear is a very weak tree. It's fast growing and very weak. So you have a lot of trouble with breaking branches and such. But the Mexican plum is very beneficial. I was looking at a Mexican plum and watching all the pollinators buzz around. And I was in a parking lot and I said, wait a minute, I bet there's a Bradford pear nearby. So all I had to do was turn and look on the next little area. And there was a Bradford pear over there. And I stood there and watched and watched and watched. And there was not one pollinator on the Bradford pear because they had their preferred plant, the Mexican plum, they were going crazy for. So that was a real eye opener. Golden ball lead tree. This is one of my absolute favorites. It's from West Texas, but it does very well in our county in the rocky soils and all. I don't know about the clay soils. It probably needs good drainage. It got very tall. Okay, which meant it was getting too much water. Yeah, probably. And too much richness. So anyway, it does great in my rocky, crummy, caliche soil. And it blooms all summer, puts on a big show in the spring, and it blooms all summer with these beautiful golden yellow balls, and the pollinators are all over it. So that's a great replacement for your crepe myrtle. Everyone's like, oh, I just love the blooms. Well, this one's even prettier, and it's area enough you can plant things underneath it, but it's a nice small tree. Mealy blue sage, most of us are familiar with that, and there is the mealy cup sage. There's a couple of cultivar or selections out there. The Henry Dulberg, which is a little darker blue, and then the white one is Augusta Dulberg. And this is just one of the landscape beds. I don't understand. People say I can't get anything to grow under my trees. And I don't really understand that. That's an ash tree, and it is in a lot of shade because the plants that'll grow here often is Turk's cap. Turk's cap will grow in full sun. You may need to water it more if you put it in full sun, but it'll grow under a tree with no problem at all. And it has, the hummingbirds love it, love it, love it. So you'll see a lot of hummingbirds, and then the little fruits are good. And you can actually eat them. They're called little apples or manzanitas. White mistflower, another favorite. They're all my favorites, you'll figure out by the end of this. But another favorite is white mistflower. This is a great fall bloomer. When most people have, a lot of people that have butterfly gardens have Greg's mistflower. And that blooms during the summer. But in the fall, by that time, it shut down and the white mistflower comes on, and it is just awash in butterflies. And it's a beautiful white plant. The rest of the year before that, it's a nice lush bush, and it'll do quite a bit of shade, Mine just gets a couple hours in the morning and that's it. And it's just happy as it can be. This is another bed. I've got the heartleaf skullcap is the purple one on the left. And then in the front, you'll see some rock rose. To the right of that is Texas green eyes. And that one I really love. It's nice and tall, and it's always covered in butterflies as well. And then to the far right is cedar sage. And what you want to do is provide things that bloom at different times. The cedar sage is done blooming, but I've left the seeds for the birds. That was an early spring bloomer. So there's always color in that bed coming on or fading out. The skullcap is going to go away in the heat of the summer. It's going to go totally dormant. So a couple of our plants actually go dormant in the heat of the summer, and that's how they survive. As soon as it cools off, it pops back up. Here's where I've used some rock. And I also use drip irrigation. Now, these plants might need a little more water, so I have a little extra irrigation emitter on them. But I have inland sea oats, possum haw holly, and they do very well, and rock rose, but they are grouped by their water needs. Dwarf palmetto, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And there's that heartleaf skullcap again, and frog fruit. So I very seldom even run the drip irrigation. Dwarf palmetto, you might wonder why that's on here for a drought-tolerant plant, but it is highly drought-tolerant. It takes water to get established. A lot of our plants are like that. Some of the high water plants, it needs water to get established, but then it knows how to conserve its energy when the water runs out. So I don't have any issues with it now, and I don't really water it. Zexminia, again, a lot of variety because one plant like the milkweed supports a few things. The oak tree supports a lot of things. And the different plants, Zexminia, this is a larval host, supports butterflies and pollinators. And it is a larval host for the border patch. So that's a different set of butterflies. So you want to have more than one of each plant, but you also want to have a variety of plants. This one is a great border plant, and it just adds a little pop of color, and it's evergreen. This is four-nerve daisy, and it seeds out a little bit, so it comes up in different places for you. But I've gone out after our third hard freeze on February, and it was 13 in February, and it was 13 degrees outside, and it was encased in ice. The blooms were encased in ice, which I should add to this picture, and it's blooming. And it came, when the ice melted, it was just happy as it could be. So, and this actually is one you can find in several places, but I've never seen it in a big box store. We'll talk a little more about that. Sorry, Meg. But anyway, you need to go to your native plant nurseries, your local nurseries. And so various textures, that's another good landscaping tip, is to use various textures. I got tall and skinny and spiky and leafy. Texas lantana, we love that plant, but make sure you're getting Texas lantana and not the one from, I guess it's Europe, Australia, Asia, wherever it is. The others have been bred out so much, they have bred out all the berries, and we don't know what they've done to the nectar, but the native one has berries for the birds after it blooms, and it is a hardy, hardy, hardy plant. Now, some of your native plants are going to be a lot harder to find than others, but they are worth the hunt, believe me. I have a gorgeous smoke tree that every year I have people just driving down our street to look at it. And next to that is an agarita, but the smoke tree is just stunning, but very hard to come by. So it's very low water, it gets established, and it's just happy as it can be up there with zero water all year round. And then this is a little bed that's just, there's a sidewalk, behind that's the air conditioner. So it's just a little tiny strip of soil there. And they're just happy as they can be, the Damianita, the antelope horns, and in the back, you see the hill country penstemon. This is right, I'm looking at the screen thinking y'all can see what I'm seeing, but this is hill country penstemon, very tough penstemon, really a nice spring bloomer. One of our better penstemons. So new plants, water until established and protect from deer. And this is what I asked my friend at Wright's Nursery, Barbara, what's a good rule for watering? And this will be on your handout. And it's every day for a week, then every other day for 2 to 3 weeks, and then twice a week until late fall. If it's a tree, it's going to take 2 to 3 years to get established. So a little more. And then Texas Forest Service says 10 gallons twice a week. If you can put your hand around the trunk, and that's touching your fingers together, if it's like a 2-inch diameter or so, that's what you want to do. So I thank you for coming today. And if you want more information, of course, the Native Plant Society of Texas, Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center is a great resource. And the Texas Master Naturalists are a wonderful resource as well, because they understand the interconnection of plants and animals and insects and all that. So it's the whole web of life there. I have a couple of books I recommend, and these are ones I use all the time. And these are on your handout, so you're welcome to that. And I just want to say a word about where to buy your plants. I get asked, where can I find native plants? And Meg's working on that with the HEB, but really your local nursery is where you're going to find the most native plants. You might find a few at the big box stores. You're not going to find much advice. If you do, then you just got darn lucky. But if you go to your local nursery, they raise those plants. They're locally grown, they're locally sourced, and they work with them right there every day, and they understand. They can give you advice, and they will give you personal service. They have a much higher variety, and you learn which nurseries you like better than others. So ask for native plants, no matter where you shop. Ask for native plants, and then you might look it up to make sure it is native, because sometimes I've asked. I go in every nursery, I ask, where's your native plants? You know, not meanly, but I just ask to see if they know and if they have an area or something. And they go, well, here's a native plant, and I pick it up. I think, no, that's not native. And they go, oh yeah, it's adapted. It's like native adapted. They think it's all the same thing. And this is just, they just don't know. So, you know, help them out, tell them it's adapted, and that's not quite what you're looking for. You're really looking for native plants. And they probably don't know, but if they've done that. But go ahead and ask for native plants. It doesn't help to get the word out there, because they respond, the businesses want to sell plants. And if you're in there asking for natives, that's what they want to sell you. So anyway, the spring and fall sales, a lot of those are over, but if you're in other areas, and apparently quite a few people are, but there are other native plant sales still going on at different Native Plant Society chapters. And just ask for natives. This is a Texas redbud next to a Mexican plum, and it is just gorgeous when they're both blooming at the same time. Really a nice combination. So thank you all for being here tonight. Nancy, you have anything for closing, or Gary? Thank you. Do you have any questions? That's right. Any questions from the audience? Meg? Actually, I heard from a guy at the plant sale that he went to Kerrville to natives of Texas and got one. But they have not been around since we had the huge, you know, snow apocalypse. And everything, the nursery stock has been depleted quite a bit when from all those heavy freezes. Because when they're sitting in a pot, they're really vulnerable. But you might call down to natives of Texas and Kerrville and see if they have one. Or I saw one other one in Dallas, but they wanted like $300 for it or something. You know, I have one and I'm babying it. So anyway, any online questions?
Do deer eat Mexican plum?
Do deer eat Mexican plum? They will eat the plum some, yes, but they don't soup.
They will eat the bottom leaves.
They will eat the bottom leaves. It's good. And the browsing. Any new plant, you have got to put a cage around if you have a deer problem. I don't care what it is. The leaves are tender, the leaves are young, and you've got to put a cage around it.
And they will take their horns and rub off the velvet.
Yeah, the small whippy trees and shrubs, they'll rub the velvet off of their horns as well. So that's another reason to protect it. But But, and then once it gets up higher and gets thicker and tougher and, you know, coarser like most of us, they don't bother it so much
So I-
anymore.
Randy, I have a sable miner that I just planted in my yard, and so it was new to our dear family.
Oh.
We were walking through this, I didn't cage it, and I was curious to see what they would do. And I actually got to watch them. They walked up to the plant, it's a palm, you know, and they just kind of looked at it and then sort of messed around with it with their noses, and then they tried to sort of nibble on it, but you could tell they didn't eat it at all.
Yeah.
They didn't start chewing.
Yeah.
it.
Sable palm, that's one of the few, it's a seriously deer resistant plant. And it's very fibrous and they don't like it. It doesn't have much forage value. There's another book by Ricky Lennox, which is really range plants of north central Texas, which is very good. And I use to research the plants for my deer resistant talk. I do a talk on deer resistant plants. And it turns out that the ones that provide food value to them are their preferred plants. Well, duh, go figure. And there's, you know, the palmettos are very fibrous and they don't like them. So they'll go to something else. Plant horse herb. Tell that person to plant horse herb. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. I'm going to turn it back to Nancy.
Thanks, Randy, and thanks, Meg. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to say goodbye to the people in Zoom, and we'll see you next month. And have a great week.